Yeah.
Okay, so I guess you're going to have to alert us when the color is supposed to be red, I'm afraid. Okay, you can go on when you're ready, Luke.
All right, I had chapter 2, Life of Luxury as well. For Lynette. I tried to have a more like plain face, and I just wanted, she was kind of materialistic. So I gave her a really elegant dress, and I gave her the pearls, which were a big part later on in the movie. And the first version, I just felt seemed a little too plain, so I added the black outline upon the top. And then for Jackie, she's supposed to have red hair, not black. Originally, I had her a lot skinnier in this one, but it kind of looked too elegant like Jackie. So I made a bigger line in the middle cross section, and I wanted to show that she wasn't as wealthy as Lynette. So I had the kind of roughed up mark, but then I later made that into creases in the dress. And then you can't really tell, but when it's the red hair, it has black outlines in the circles. And in the second one, there's a lot more circles, and it just looked too crazy, so I opted for bigger circles, which just made her more simplified. And then for Louise, the maid, originally, it kind of looked like she was bald, because she didn't have the top part of the hair. And then I played around with having arms on her, because she carries a tray of tea in the beginning, but it just kind of looked like she was a man and very bulky. So I took those out, and it just looked like she was too flat. So I added 2 triangles at the bottom, so it looked like she had more of a skirt on. And then I also added tears because she's crying in the scene because Lynette won't allow her to get married to a man that she loved, but he was already married. And then in one scene, when Lynette drives up, there's a butler and maids outside. So I wanted to keep their faces simple and same with their attire. And then in the second one, I again played around with having arms, but just didn't like how it looked. So I opted for no arms for the final. For the maid, it pretty much stayed the same, except for I added triangles on the apron. And then for my first scene, I had Lynette driving up in the car to her huge mansion house, but the castle is supposed to be red, and there's bricks and everything, and little windows. In this scene, though, after looking at it, it kind of looks like the car is just about to run over the maid. So I opted to have the car more flat and line up closer. Oh wow, that was really terrible. It's supposed to be all red and bricks all along. And then it's just the maid and butler waiting. But I really wanted to show how big the mansion was to show her wealth. And I opted to make the car really detailed because she was really materialistic, and I thought having a really detailed car would show that. So then in the third and final, once again, this is supposed to be a red building with bricks. I opted to have the car in front of it, and then I added more maids and servants to show like her wealth and power. And then for my second scene is when Louise brings tea to Lynette and Jackie. I thought it just kind of looked awkward because I didn't give any of the characters arms, so it just looked like the tray was kind of floating there. And then I switched around the position, so it looks as if Louise is just walking into the scene, and I added a table instead of a tray because of the arms, but it just still kind of looked odd, and the table just seemed very high. So in the final, I turned it into a tray, which you could have been like rolling into the picture, and then I also added the get depth, and I also added a big window to show that they were inside. And then for the final scene, I had Lynette and Jackie when they're talking in her bathroom, and Jackie's asking Lynette if she could bring Simon over. And while watching the movie, I saw that there was this one scene that looks a lot like this one, where there's two mirrors, and in the opposite sides you could see both characters. So I wanted to play around with that and like almost foreshadow what's gonna happen inside the mirrors. So I decided to add a little bit more. I added the water inside the bathtub. The candles are originally red with fire. And then I also had the streaks in the mirror to show that they were reflective and they weren't just two tiny people in these ovals. And then in the final, I added more depth with creating like a space for them to be in with the walls and add more candles. And then in the mirror, I toyed around with having a gun so that it looks like later on when Lynette or Jackie and Simon pair up to kill Jackie. And then I have Jackie or Lynette dead in the other mirror. And then the finals are this first one where Lynette arrives, and then Louise bringing them the tea, and then the bathroom. That's it. Any questions? Alex?
I really like the car.
Thank you.
Yeah.
A lot of time in that.
And one thing, for the second scene,
Mm-hmm.
I personally like the second rendition you had of it better than
This
the
one?
third one. No, or the first scene. Sorry.
The first one.
Yeah, the one with the car. The scene with the car.
Oh,
yeah.
gotcha.
I like the second one you had. This one. I mean, I wish I could see the brick, but
Yeah.
I think with the third one, the big chunk of white in the middle kind of distracts me a little bit, and the people kind of they're just floating there. Versus
That's
like in the
true.
one before, you can kind of tell that they're waiting for the car at the door.
In this one, you can see
Yeah.
they're waiting right outside.
Mhm.
There's, on some of the pieces, and I think it may be the outlines, you need to maybe look and make sure there's no shadow in the line, in the
Yeah.
outline. Because the few things that are popping in odder ways than they should, I think.
Okay.
But,
Yeah, I'll have to go back and check those shadows.
Yeah.
Riley?
Is there a reason why, like, for the servants and, like, the butler, you have facial expressions and then on your main characters, they're just blank?
Because I wanted to show like a difference between the two. So that the servants have eyes and the maid has a mouth and the butler has a mustache. So I wanted them to look like more like actual people instead of these higher up people. Like Lynette, everybody like wants to be like her. So like almost anyone could be here. So I like kind of made her faceless. Well, all the workers are actual faces. Any other questions?
On your third scene,
Mm-hmm.
I like how you reflected the, oh wait, yeah, this one. I like the setup. It looks really, really nice.
Thanks.
So like on the same scene, I kind of think that it'd be cool if you kind of add Simon in the mirror too.
I was thinking that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Let's go back and look at how you put your characters together. And at the very beginning, if you can.
Mm-hmm.
I know you had quite a bit of adjustments to make with Louise, for example. And I wonder, you know, what actually gives her that funny appearance. In some ways, the first one or the middle one look more like her than the last one, although I do definitely like the tears on her face. I think that's a good depiction. But you know, I think that very small crescent of white or something at the top would take care of your problem, rather than the heavier black piece. because she really does have those obnoxious curls hanging out at the side, and it really helps identify her as a character. So maybe if it's really, I think, a flat piece of cloth that goes across her head, it's not really even a cap, and that's what makes the curls stand out. So maybe you could just outline something there in black, rather than having the dark black piece at the top, and you might get a little closer to really making it really stand out as Louise for us. And the other thing, the second version in a way wasn't all that bad because she's not a very feminine looking character. She's very tall and very thin looking, and always looks miserable, of course. So in some ways, I just wanted to point out that middle one was really maybe even a closer depiction than the far one. It just maybe tweaked the middle one. I don't know, others can weigh in on that. I like the tears though, I'd want those, I think.
Yeah, Nick?
Yeah, the one thing with your final Louise, is I think the bottom of her dress, it may be too drastic where it almost makes her look more royal almost.
Okay.
So either none at all or slim it down a little bit.
Okay. So yeah, I think I'll, when I relook at this, I'll probably play around more with the second version, doing the cloth, and then possibly add tying her skirt onto her.
Other questions and comments? Some good work here. Thank you. Good job.